Welcome to Advocacy Basics. This short video is designed for anybody who wants to perform better in a courtroom or a tribunal. By the way, for those of you watching this video who are thinking to yourselves, you'll never see me inside a courtroom, but who may nevertheless be doing some public speaking, there will be some points in this video which we're sure you'll find quite useful. What you're looking at now on the whiteboard behind our witness Sonia is the agenda that we're going to cover in this short video. You'll see that our general topic is commanding the space. That is, the space that you as a speaker or advocate are working in. You'll also see some topics: sightlines, props, you and your witness, and furniture. Now, how do we go about deciding with any given audience in what order should we discuss these topics? Easy. We look at what does the audience need, that's objective, and what do they want emotionally. And we start with something that they want and need to hear. We finish with something that they want and need to hear. And we put the other stuff that they need to hear but don't particularly want to hear in the middle. Which is why, in this video, we're starting with you and your witness, we're then going to furniture, we're then going to sightlines, and we're finishing with props, because that's interesting. Turning now to you and your witness, and you'll see in the shot at the moment, you can see our witness. As we pan back round to you, being either of the advocates, one thing we can take for granted is that all of you, advocate and witnesses, will always have some anxiety about performing. It never, ever goes away. So since it won't go away, how do you mask it? A very simple one is to move their thumbs against each other behind their back, as Edmund will now demonstrate. If you watch his thumbs, you will see what you will see very often in court if you are sitting in the public gallery, namely that the advocate, he or she, moves their thumbs against each other, and this takes away some of the other signs of stress which will show up in any advocate who's not doing that. Thank you, Edmund. The problem with the solution that Edmund's just shown us is that if the advocate needs to refer to their notes, turn a textbook or a casebook or write a note, they have to stop moving their thumbs. The anxiety comes back. There is fortunately another solution, which Emma will now show us. Emma, if you'd stand up, please. Put your feet slightly apart. You'll see that Emma at the moment has a solid, still position. If she were anxious, as more than half of us are, once she started to speak, upper body motion is almost inevitable. To reduce that, the best way we've found so far is to wiggle your toes up and down. Rather than show that on this video, we're going to imagine instead that wiggling the fingers will achieve the same effect. Emma, if you'd put your two hands in front of you so that they're exactly like that, start to move your fingers, as many of them as you can, up and down. Right. Emma, tell us something short about your day, looking towards the camera.
Today I cooked some Thai food.
What kind of Thai food was it, Emma?
It was a spicy green chicken curry.
How long did it take you to prepare that spicy green chicken curry?
It only took me about 20 minutes.
Tell us some of the ingredients in that spicy curry.
There is coconut milk, kaffir lime leaves, green beans, and chicken.
If you've watched Emma's speech rate against her hand rate, you'll have seen that both of them are quite slow. She can stop moving the hands now and sit down. For many of you, ask the same questions about something as simple as what you cooked, your speech rate will be far faster than your hand wrap up and down rate. What you must aim to do is to synchronise the rate at which your hands, or rather your toes, go up and down inside your shoes with the rate at which you talk. How do you do that? The bathroom's an ideal place to do it. Talk to yourself in the bathroom mirror and move your toes up and down on the floor while you're doing the talking until your voice speed and your toe speed coincide. That leaves only one remaining topic under you and your witness, and that is silence. Silence is something we'll return to in our later videos, for example, when we're talking about visualization. For the moment, just bear in mind that although you think of being silent in front of an audience as something which is dreadful, it is, contrary to what you think, an enormous asset when you deliberately turn it into that. Let's now move on to our second topic, which is furniture. That is, given that we're talking about commanding the space, how you as an advocate command space by turning the furniture, such as the bar table where you sit, the chairs which you use to sit on and push behind, how you use those things to make you a more powerfully persuasive advocate. We're going to do two different things here. The first one is that Emma is going to show you what you need to do, namely to find out whether a chair that you sit in a courtroom should be behind you, which is what she'll demonstrate first, or in front of you, which is what she'll demonstrate second, when you are talking to an audience. Emma, when you're ready.
Your Honour, I am filer for the defendant. That is spelled F-I-L-E-R. Your Honour, I am filer for the defendant. That is spelled F-I-L-E-R.
You will find that it is not your own impression, but what others say to you, that will determine whether you should be a person who puts the chair behind you or puts the chair between you and your audience. In the second demonstration, Edmund is going to show us a three-part option as to whether you should or should not use a desktop lectern, or indeed be behind any lectern. And if you should use a lectern, whether you should be behind it entirely or whether you should merely touch it with your dominant hand. Edmund is right-hand dominant, and you'll see that for that reason he must move the lectern. When you're ready, Edmund.
Your Honour, my name is Edmund, E-D-M-U-N-D, and I act for the defendant. Your Honour, my name is Edmund, E-D-M-U-N-D, and I act for the defendant. Your Honour, my name is Edmund, E-D-M-U-N-D, and I act for the defendant.
The best way to determine whether you should or should not use a lectern, and if you are a person who should use it, whether you should touch it or not, is to get a group of 3 or more friends who place themselves immediately in front of you while you do the test with the lectern. One person's view is not enough. Your own view about what you think is best is more likely than not to be wrong. Now that we've dealt with both the topics of you and your witness and furniture, we now move on to sightlines. The sightlines being the way in which you as an advocate and your witness relate to the decision maker. Now, the way that we've set up this video is that the video camera is in the position of a judge, or if there's a jury, then the jury box. In other words, what we call the J factor. Now, we'll start here by having Edmund stand up and look at his witness, Sonia, in the way in which that is usually done. That is, that Edmund gets a sight line directly onto Sonia. Look at this point. Remember, we're looking from the judge's point of view. Look at what part of Edmund's face you now see. As judge, we now swivel round to look at what the witness looks like to the J factor when she is looking at her advocate. Notice that in both cases, what you are getting as the judge is a profile, not a head-on shot of the advocate or the witness. Now, imagine that you are a juror or a judge. In order for you to assess how much you accept of the witness on Sonia's evidence, notice how she's now looking directly at us. That tells us much more about Sonia than when she was looking at her advocate, as she will now do. See how much she gives away the moment she no longer relates to us. It's the same with the advocate. If we go back to the advocate, if the advocate is addressing the judge or the jury in an opening or closing address, if he now looks at us, he is a much more persuasive person than when he's looking at somebody else about whom at this stage we know nothing at all. For that reason, what we hope that we have just shown you is that although you and the witness have a natural and quite normal tendency to want to look at each other during the taking of evidence, both of you significantly improve your persuasiveness if you look towards the J factor, as Edmund is doing now. Note, we didn't say stare at the J factor, we just said look towards. We've now dealt with the first 3 of our 4 topics for this video, and that leaves us with the last one, being props. With props, we're going to start with the use of the water glass. You'll see in just a moment that our witness, Sonia, has in front of her a half glass of water. Let's see how she might use it. Here are some questions that Sonia might face. Sonia, during your last university vacation, what kind of competition did you take part in?
A witness examination competition.
And Sonia, did you reach the finals?
No,
Sonia, why not?
because my teacher didn't teach me enough.
That's an example of how to use the water glass. Notice that when Sonia reached for the water glass, she reached in such a way that she came into the judge's, or in this case, you the viewer's, field of vision. Watch what happens if she fails to do that and instead reaches out of the field of vision. Here we go with a repeat close enough of what just happened. Sonia, during the last university vacation, what kind of competition did you engage in?
A witness examination competition.
Sonia, did you reach the finals?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
My coach didn't teach me enough.
As you can see, the second one, where she reaches out of your field of vision, makes her look far less credible than when she reaches into the field of vision. Now, in this case with the water, we've had the witness, Sonia, illustrate how to use it and not use it. But it's exactly the same for the advocate. When you're on your feet, and you need to think. Make sure when you use the water glass that you reach into the J-factor field of vision when you open your mouth to say something. You'll also see that on the judge's right, on Sonia's left, there is a box of paper tissues. Those are there for those unexpected times when a witness melts down. If that happens, make sure that there are some tissues. Don't do what so often happens in courtrooms, which is everybody sitting there very embarrassed while the witness cries with nothing to mop up the tears. We go now to an illustration of the use of baseline, which is at the bottom of the props list. You'll note that in using this props list, we're not following the order that's straight down the page. This is to remind you that just because we make a list in advocacy doesn't mean that we follow the order in which we write things down. We always think about where do we want to go. So we decided to group water and tissues for convenience. We're now going down to baseline. We're going to use baseline and distances together. And Edmund, our advocate, is going to demonstrate that. When you're ready, Edmund.
Now, Sonia, I'm just going to ask you a few questions about your room. Using the leading edge of your table as a reference, could you please tell me how large is your room?
I would say about double of the edges you described.
Thank you, Sonia.
Notice that Edmund did not allow his witness to give a distance in feet, yards or metres. And the reason for that is that such estimates of distance are notoriously inaccurate, not only for the witness who's giving the distance, but also for every person who hears her estimate. For that reason, what we always aim to do is to share our present sensory experience, that is what we see, hear, smell, taste or touch, wherever we can in a courtroom, so that we're sharing common experiences among all of us who are interested in the questions and the answers. For that reason, you'll see that Edmund has in front of him two small objects on the table, one of which is a tape measure, and the other of which is a simple die-cast model car. Notice that there is also a water glass there. All of these are props. The tape measure is something that every advocate will always take with them into a courtroom, so that when they've got the answer that Edmund just got from his witness, he can say, "Your Honour, at the next break, I will measure that distance," and the accurate measurement can then go into the transcript after the break. The reason for having the small die-cast car model there is to remind everyone that a visual, be it a photograph, a map, a diagram, or a model of anything, works so much better than trying to describe it in words. Having dealt with baseline and distance and die-cast models, we're left with the wall clock. Now, this wall clock, as you can see in this courtroom, is directly opposite to you in the judge's position, and as it happens, the advocates are on its right from our perspective, and the witness is on its left. The beauty of a clock in a courtroom is that it allows everybody to have exactly the same idea of what direction we're talking about. We can now demonstrate this as follows. Sonia, you can see the clock over there on the wall.
Yes.
You can see that the 12 at the top,
Yes.
6 at the bottom,
Yes.
3 on your right,
Yes.
and 9 on your left.
Yes.
I'd like to imagine, like you to imagine, that that clock was now sitting in front of you like a dinner plate. Can you see that?
Yes.
Now let's test it. If it's sitting in front of you like a dinner plate with the 12 being straight away from you, where do you say, with respect to a number on that clock, the judge and the camera are?
I would say 2 o'clock.
And where would you say that Emma, one of the two advocates, is?
I would say 1 o'clock.
Many people in courtrooms use compass points. They're not nearly as good as the numbers on a clock. Here's why. A number of people, but not all, learned that the best way to remember their compass points was never eat soggy Weet-Bix. That's clear enough. Sadly, many people change the west and the east around, so they get 180 degrees off what's intended to be there. Fortunately, we've never found anybody who confuses 3 with 9. For that reason, we strongly recommend that you use clock numbers, not compass points, to indicate direction in a courtroom. Now that is the end of our Commanding the Space short video. You'll see, as we come back up now to the topics, what we've covered during this session. What we're going to do in the next session is take you into visualization. Visualization is the best method we have yet found to get people to learn how to examine in chief or direct, or to cross-examine another witness. This will probably take us 2 short videos. Please wait for those to come out. Meantime, if you're looking for some free and useful material about advocacy and how to do it, go to our blogspot, advocacyteaching.blogspot.com, and use the subject index on the right-hand side to find material that will help you become a better advocate. Good luck till next time.